Hey guys, welcome to It's 420 Somewhere. Today we're going to talk about DMT alternatives, the Biden administration and psilocybin, and Cory Booker. Okay, we'll start with a story that kind of gives us a taste of how far we've come in the world of the War on Drugs and the Controlled Substances Act entirely. There are 5 new tryptamines that the DEA got their hands on, and they wanted to basically schedule them all as Schedule 1 drugs and then be done with it, brush their hands and say, well, okay, those are off limits, we can't touch them. However, when this decision probably in the past would have been easy to do, in the 90s they would have just done it, there would be no backlash at all. There was a crap load of backlash this time around, and the main reason is when you make these drugs Schedule 1, it's a lot harder to research them. So there ought to be a really good reason for them to be Schedule 1 drugs in the first place. And it turns out there's really not much of a good reason. There aren't really any deaths that are specifically targeted to these tryptamines, and specifically the tryptamines are 4-OH-DIPT, 5-MeO-AMT, 5-MeO-MIPT, 5-MeO-DET, and DIPT. So they're all kind of similar to DMT, the 5-MeO-DMT from toads, but they're slightly different in a few ways. And some of them you can actually overdose on, and so if you think that it's LSD and you accidentally take AMT, that could be dangerous for you because you don't want to take too much. For the most part, we need to do research. We need to do a lot more research on these drugs before we just schedule them as Schedule 1. And the DEA heard that message and for now is holding off on scheduling these things. And they're going to take them back to the Human and Health Services Administration, and they're going to get more research done there before they make any opinions. So that's a huge step, and really cool that now the DEA is aware that it's a lot harder to get things scheduled than it used to be. Next story is about the Biden administration kind of showing their hand a little bit on what they think about psilocybin and MDMA therapy. A letter was sent from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration to a representative in Pennsylvania? Yeah, a representative in Pennsylvania that shows that the executive branch is expecting or anticipating the FDA to approve psilocybin therapy or MDMA therapy within the next 2 years. And that's pretty big coming from the Biden administration because we haven't really heard anything from them. And they also kind of seem to show their hand by saying that they think that this is a good move and that they will probably back it, and they'll certainly back it. This is all in a letter obtained by The Intercept, and there seems to be a back and forth between this representative and SAMHSA, which is talking about creating a task force just for when this does happen, and so we can get these therapies up and running as soon as possible. It's super exciting to think that this could happen within the next 2 years on a federal level and not just state by state, which is kind of how we're seeing it now. So this issue of psychedelic therapy might be a lot more quickly resolved than an issue like marijuana, which is a good thing overall. Finally, we have a lot of kind of like periphery stuff happening around this big cannabis bill that came out last week. We're mainly seeing kind of how these senators are dealing with it, and one senator in particular who is kind of interesting is Cory Booker. So Cory Booker has come out in the past. He's one of the main signatures of this big bill. He's come out in the past saying that we shouldn't do any other small bills because it's going to get in the way of our big bill, and specifically the Safe Banking Act bill, which everyone is in favor of. Everyone wants this to happen, but he's saying we can't pass that because then now we have less leverage for the big, gigantic bill. However, it seems that his position is softening a little bit because he recently had a hearing in his subcommittee about this big marijuana bill. He says at one point specifically, by not allowing something like safe banking and opening the banking rules, we're actually creating a reality by constricting it. That this is going to be a business that's going to move forward because states are moving, that's going to allow the people who already have resources, already have wealth and access to get opportunities, and people from lower income backgrounds with criminal past marijuana convictions to really get entirely squeezed out. And that's a big point because a lot of safe banking advocates have been saying we need safe banking to go through so that these lower income people who want to start businesses can get loans. And right now they can't get loans, they can't start anything unless they have a huge influx of cash. And the only people who have that are wealthy people from the start. He's seeming to come around to the other side, saying that the Safe Banking Act is very important as a starting point for our bigger bill. And that's a big step. That's awesome. I think we're starting to see all of the senators realize that this big bill is kind of not a possibility yet, or not even close to a possibility yet. So we have to use that as the top of the mountain to get to, but on the way we have safe banking, we have expungements, we have maybe another omnibus bill with other Republicans to get there. And that, I think, is the actual road, and I think they might be doing something where they're not showing their cards entirely and just trying to use that as kind of a leverage. But hopefully that's the case, and hopefully that he's showing us right there that he's willing to get safe banking done, because it freaking needs to be done. It's crazy that it hasn't. So yeah, those are 3 promising stories that we have today. We'll be back on Friday with some more news. I'll see you then.